Okay, so this one was a parametric, and you were converting it over to rectangular. Why did the TXY chart come in handy even though you weren't graphing it? Well, when you put in t as 1, you put it here, you end up with 4, and then 2 minus 7 is negative 5. Then you've got the beginning of your new limit, because the new limit has to be about x's. All right, so then I go to putting in 3. Could I have put in 2 in between? Yes, but it is not necessary on a straight line. Do you get if it's a straight line, you just need 2 dots? So I don't need anything in the middle. All right, so I'm gonna just put in the 3. On a curve, which by the way, anything with trig or anything with a squared in it, those will be curves, not straight lines. All right, so I would have put in 2 if this had that. This is a straight line, so I'm putting in 3, and then I get 12, and then I get 6 minus 7 is negative 1. Okay, now I'm gonna go and convert this. I personally like this way where you solve it for t, and you get t equals x over 4, and solve this one for t equals y plus 7 over 2, and then set this one equal to this one. X over 4 equals y plus 7 over 2. Is there another way? Sure. I could have stuck this equation right here where t is x plus 4. I could have put the x plus 4 right there, and I would have had y equals 2 parentheses. T was really x over 4, and then minus 7. Okay, that works totally fine too. But both of these would be marked wrong without a x has to be between what and what? Well, here they are, 4 and 12. Who would have had that one right? Good. Okay, if you didn't have it right, hopefully you understand now. Here's our next challenge. Is that a parametric? No. So make it into a parametric. Pause for a second. Let me give that a shot. Okay, for this one, it should have gone pretty easy. You should have said x equals t. Now, do you get that if this had been x equals 6y minus 2, you wouldn't have been able to say x equals t? That would not have worked. If the original problem had been x equals, then you could have said y equals t. All right, so back to this. This one was a simple one. It's y equals this, so x equals t. Then you can swap out, and the x is t, so you put a t right there. So you get y equals 6t minus 2, and x equals t. And then these, since it's super simple, x is t, you take the x values, and you go from 3 to 4. So t needs to be from 3 to 4. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, cool. All right, now this one. This one's a graph. Okay, so everybody try graphing this thing. And then later we'll convert it over. But for right now, I just want you to graph it. This tests if you can do circle trig, because you'll be doing things like sine of 0, sine of pi over 2, sine of pi. So make your TXY chart, and the reason you can't just have 2 points, 0 and pi, is because 2 points do not define a curve. You need at least 3 to tell where the curve is. Pausing while you work on this. Remember, you're graphing it. Make the actual sketch too, not just the points on the table. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to put in t is 0, because that's, I'm saying t, but it's really theta. You know, like, I hope you have realized that theta is playing the role of t this time. So I'm going to put in a 0. And I really like doing these from having the spots on the unit circle So this is 1 comma 0, 0 comma 1, negative 1 comma 0. And as I do 0, I'm here. And then sine of it is the y of it. And 0 times the 8, 0. And then cosine here is the x of it. And the x is this one. And so then that's 1. And 1 times the 8 makes 8. So let's go a little faster. Pi over 2 and then pi. At pi over 2, it's going to, actually, I think I did that backwards, didn't I? Okay, so Sasha, what should it be?
The x should be 8 for 0 and y should
Thank you. 8 comma 0, and the next one's 0 comma 8, and the last one's negative 8 comma 0. Do I have those right? Okay, cool. So here's the actual graph then, and the little like arrows on it are really important. We even say on the test, you need to put arrows on it, because this going this direction is totally different than the alternative, okay? Now this can be labeled as 8, and this is 8, and this is negative 8. And I think I would have given credit for that. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Cool. Now the harder part, much harder. Convert it to a rectangular equation, and then a lot of you can do that because you know you just square both parts, but then can you get the domain right? And everybody wants to just default to the x domain. No. Look at this and try to figure out how to do the domain right. There'll be more than one chance to make that mistake on this upcoming test. Domains aren't always x. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second. Let you figure this out. If you're like, well, my domain's x, well, then you did it wrong. You can't limit this one by x and have it work. So we're gonna square both parts. I'm gonna square this part, and square that part, because what do we just pick one thing on each side and square it? No, we square the whole thing. If you're confused about why that should have the 8 get squared, it's because if you had like 2x and I said square it, that means times it by itself. And then you'd have 4x squared. Okay, so back to this. I've got my x squared and my y squared, and if you know what you're looking for, you should know, oh, rectangular, this is like half of a circle, then I should take my x squared plus my y squared, so we add these together, x squared plus the y squared, and then we add these together, and we get 64 sine squared plus 64 cosine squared. And then, if you can factor it, you should. That's got two things that will happily factor out. And sometimes you don't even know why you're factoring it out. But then it becomes clear after it's factored. And you go, I know sine squared plus cosine squared. What's that equal to? 1. So then 1 times the 64 means it's just 64. And there's your equation. But it needs a limiter. Now, I made it clear. I bet you a lot of you would have said that the limit was between negative 8 and 8. But why would that fail? Because Zodi?
Because as the part that's being cut off is also between negative 8 and 8.
There would be more. Yeah, these guys would have been in there if you had said between negative 8 and 8. So what should you say?
You should have y be the limiter and have y be greater than or equal to 0.
So there's y equals 0, there's y equals 8, and it needs to be between those two. So between here and here, you are correct. Y needs to be between 0 and 8. Okay, and that's tricky, but I think you can do it. All right, so we've done a bunch of the types of questions. That's not all of them. And you know, it's honors pre-calc. It's not going to be easy, but I think you'll be all right. The more you study, the better you'll do. Last thought. We are grading the lab today. So this is the part where, if you haven't already, you need to Dropbox that in the Dropbox. Most of you already have. Then you're going to open it back, that file back up again. We're going to grade it, and you'll Dropbox it again on top of the old one. It'd be really dumb to cheat because I already know what you deposited before. And if you only deposit it once with it graded, that's going to count like you were cheating. So you already have to deposit it now. Then, you probably already did. We'll grade it, and then you'll deposit it again in the Dropbox. All right. Okay, so that's enough for the video for today. The test is tomorrow on parametrics. It's a short unit, so it's not worth as much as a normal test, but it'll feel like a normal test. It's just if it's a struggle for you because it was only a few days learning, it won't impact your grade quite as much. And there's always a chance of a retake too. Okay, there we go.